Hello and welcome. My name is Natalie and this is Flamin Hot Reviews. Today I've got something a little bit different for you. I know it's been a while since I've posted a video, so I thought it might be interesting to try a slightly different than usual type of product. Now don't worry, it is still technically a Flamin Hot product, but it's a little bit different than what we normally deal with. Today we have Flamin Hot Beef Jerky. That's right. Matador brand beef jerky has released a new flavor that features the Flamin Hot name. Now, it will be interesting to see how this stands up to other Flamin Hot products. Will it be spicy? Will it have that same sort of flavor note that we've come to know and love from other Flamin Hot products? Now, looking at the packaging here, you can see this is pretty small. Not a lot, definitely enough you could eat in a single serving. I'm not sure if there are larger portions. This says this is a new size, so that to me implies that somewhere out there are larger portions. However, this is what I found. On the back here, we've got a short description of the product. So let's go ahead and read that, see if that gives us any first impressions. Charge forward. Matador gives you fuel to help tackle what's next. Power through what you gotta do so you get back to what you want to do. Interesting. Well, I have not eaten anything today, so we will have to see if this, if I feel energized after consuming some of this jerky. Now, one thing that I do think is interesting is I want to take note of the ingredients real quick, because all it is beef, water, sugar, salt, which, all pretty standard beef jerky ingredients, with less than 2% of flavors, monosodium glutamate, also known as MSG, which of course is a ingredient that is often added to add additional saltiness and umami, which is sort of like a savory type flavor to dishes. Citric acid, torula yeast, and pineapple powder. Very interesting. I guess that'll give it a little bit of sweetness. So that'll be interesting to see how that sort of sweetness from the sugar that's already in the beef jerky, and if we get any of those pineapple notes, we'll have to see how that interacts with the Flamin' Hot. Now, I do think it's funny that it just says contains flavors. I assume that is the Flamin' Hot flavor dust, or however they integrate it into the beef. So let's go ahead and dive right in and see what it's like. So this is completely blind, if I can get this package open. This is some thick plastic. This is completely blind. I've never tried these before. So we'll have to see. Now, I can show you really quick, if I can get my camera to focus. This is what a piece of the jerky looks like. Sorry if that's a little blurry. But essentially, it looks like standard beef jerky. It's kind of got a dark reddish flavor. It doesn't look or smell particularly flamin' hot, so I guess we're going to have to go in for the taste test. Now, before I begin, I just want to do a quick note on my rating system. Typically, we rate on flavor, spiciness, and texture. Obviously, this will be a little bit different, as everything is typically compared to Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Now, this would be, it's a little apples and oranges, kind of difficult to say they're the same thing. So I will still be using that scale, but do note that I will simply be commenting on my personal rating, not how they necessarily compare to Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to give it a test. Okay, all right. I think I've got a good enough impression of it so far. So I'm going to start off with texture, since I think that's a bit the easiest. I would say it's pretty standard beef jerky texture. Definitely, what you would come to expect if you've eaten Matador beef jerky before, or, you know, uh, if you've eaten, like a Slim Jim or something like that before. You know, it's a little bit chewy, a little bit, on the tougher side as you would expect, as uh, the meat has been cured, so it's been dried with salt, so it's been, much of the moisture has been, sucked out of the meat. So of course it's gonna be a little dry, it's gonna be a little chewy. But I gotta say, I think they have struck a good balance of, there's enough where it's tender enough where it's sort of toothsome. You can, it's not hard to eat. It's not like you're not going to be spending all day, chomping down on it, trying to break it down. So I think the texture is pretty solid. I mean, I'm willing to give it a 4 out of 5. Personally, I would like maybe just a little bit more tenderness. But personally, I just prefer a more, those kind of chewier, slightly more moist pieces of jerky. However, it is fine. It's good. Standard beef jerky stuff. We're not reinventing the wheel here. Now, I want to move on. Before I get to flavor, I actually want to move on to spiciness second. Now, I gotta say, if you were watching my facial reactions, you may have noticed. When I first took a bite of this, it was not that spicy. I at first was, I had a half second where I was a little disappointed there. I was like, man, this is not very spicy. I'm just kind of getting sweetness. But then it hit me. This definitely takes a second for the spice to really kick in. And I'm still talking to you. Now, a couple minutes removed from having swallowed all of the jerky, the spiciness is still laying on my tongue. It's still, I can still feel it, a little bit of that tingle. So it's not an extreme spice, but I gotta say, this is a spice that lasts, and especially if you don't have anything to drink, if you're not, following it up with some water or something, this is going to sit on the tongue for a while. And personally, I think it's quite enjoyable. I think the level of heat is pretty solid. It's not overwhelming. It's a very eatable snack, where you can keep eating it. Sometimes when you eat something that's really, really spicy, you have to sometimes take like a little bit of a break, give your mouth a second to kind of cool down and before you keep going. But I would say not the case here. I think, kind of like what I was saying about the texture, they struck a good balance here. The spiciness is solid. It is present. It really sits on the tongue. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say I can still feel some tingling on my mouth. So personally, I'm enjoying the spiciness, and I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. I think it's really good. It's enjoyable. When you're eating a spicy food, you kind of are looking, spiciness is pain, essentially. It's not like a flavor. Spiciness doesn't taste good, but you kind of grow to sort of enjoy the pain aspect of it, and you get that little bit of a rush when you eat something that's really spicy. And I think this is like a fun, exciting level. So I really like this, and just to reiterate, I'm giving the spiciness a 5 out of 5. Now I want to talk about the flavor really quick. Now I gotta say, as far as beef jerky goes, this is some fine tasting jerky. It's got that, it's very beefy. Those bovine notes are right there on the tongue as soon as you bite into it. So very savory, very salty. I can definitely tell, not only does it have salt, but it has MSG. But at the same time, there is a subtle sweetness. There is a hint of that. In fact, I would say that when you bite into it, the sweetness is probably going to be the first thing that you note. That's really going to be the first impression is that sweetness. And it's nice, it's pleasant. And then, it's very quickly followed up by, of course, the savoriness of the meat itself, as well as the sort of incoming layer of spiciness that I think layers over it nicely. Admittedly, I'm not really getting any of those pineapple notes. I think that might just be there to add a little bit of sweetness, extra sweetness and acidity as well. Pineapple is, of course, very acidic. So I don't think you're actually really supposed to taste that. I was hoping maybe just like a little bit of like a teriyaki kind of hint, but that's not present here. But it is fine. It's fine without it. It certainly doesn't need it. That being said, while I think the flavor of the jerky is fine, I'm not really getting any of that classic Flamin' Hot flavor. There certainly is those cayenne notes, with the spiciness. It's very much the same type of heat where it is sort of like intense, and it is like a single point of hotness. That sort of is continually drilling into your tongue is how I would describe the sensation. Very much like cayenne, very much like Flamin' Hot Cheetos. But as far as the flavor goes, I would have maybe liked a little bit more of like a cheesy flavor. I know just because something is labeled with Flamin' Hot, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be cheesy. but I just kind of feel like that with its association with Cheetos and even things like Flamin Hot Doritos, you know, we've kind of just come to associate it with a cheesy type of flavor. So I would have maybe liked to see some of that, and maybe just a little bit closer to the classic Flamin' Hot flavor. That being said, because the jerky was still pretty good, I'm a little torn. I almost want to give it like a 3.5 out of 5 because it's a good jerky, but as far as Flamin' Hot goes, you know, if you handed me this and you covered up the label and you said, "Oh, try this jerky," I would just think it's some spicy jerky. You know, I wouldn't necessarily go, "Oh, that's Flamin' Hot jerky." So I think I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 ultimately. Again, that's not to say it's bad per se, but if you're really looking for a Flamin' Hot experience, you're not going to quite find it here. At the same time, though, if you're looking for some solid spicy jerky, I think this is something you should look into picking up. So to sort of just go back and review, we're giving the texture a 4 out of 5. We're giving the spiciness a 5 out of 5. And we are giving the flavor a 3 out of 5. I would definitely say give these a try, especially if you like jerky and if you like spicy foods. Now, everyone knows jerky is a little expensive, so don't come if you're, don't come for this if you don't have a lot of money to spend. This is a bit of a premium product. That being said, though, I think Matador has done a solid job. I think this is an excellent product from Frito-Lay's, and I really am interested to see what other sort of creative applications of the Flamin' Hot label come in the future. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share the video, and subscribe for more. I definitely want to try not to have as big of gaps in between videos, but no promises, I suppose. All right, thank you again for watching, and have a good day.